The paradox. A $500 RV should be uninhabitable. Leaking roof, rotten floor, an engine that hasn't turned over since the last president. Walls so thin you can feel the wind through the paneling without opening a window. Yet thousands of homeless Americans are living in these abandoned recreational vehicles right now. Not just surviving, staying warm through entire winters in machines that dealerships refuse to take as trade-ins because the scrap value was higher than the resale value. They are not spending $15,000 on renovations. They are not watching van life influencers explain how to install a $2,000 diesel heater. They are using methods that cost less than 1 month of a storage unit rental and outperform factory systems that failed after 3 years. What do they know about keeping an RV alive through winter that the industry that built it never wanted you to learn? Why a $500 RV beats a $500 van? Here's the thing about cheap RVs that most people miss. A $500 cargo van gives you maybe 60 square feet of living space and bare metal walls. A $500 RV, even one that has not moved in 4 years, gives you 120 square feet with walls that already have insulation cavities built in, a floor that was designed to hold furniture, a ceiling that was meant to keep rain out, windows that were sized for living, not for driving. The RV is already a house. A broken house, but a house. And fixing a broken house is always cheaper than building one from scratch inside a metal box. Veterans of this life know something else about abandoned RVs. The systems that failed are usually the expensive ones. The generator, the air conditioner, the water heater, the holding tanks. But the shell, the actual structure that keeps weather out and warmth in, that part was overbuilt because manufacturers knew the walls were the one thing that could not fail on the showroom floor. A buyer can forgive a broken fridge. A buyer cannot forgive a wall that flexes when you lean on it. That overbuilt shell is exactly what makes a $500 RV a better survival platform than anything else at that price. My grandfather used to say, "The bones of a house matter more than the paint." He was talking about farmhouses in Ohio, but he was not wrong about abandoned RVs in Arizona either. The roof, where everything starts or ends. The first thing experienced RV survivors address is the roof, not the engine, not the plumbing, not the generator, the roof. Because every other problem in an RV traces back to water coming through the top. Most cheap RVs have EPDM rubber roofs that crack after 8 to 12 years of UV exposure. Once that membrane splits, water enters the ceiling, soaks the wooden framing, and begins rotting the structure from the inside out. A dealership sees that damage and writes the unit off. A survivor sees it and spends $35 to fix it. Here's how. A gallon of elastomeric roof coating from any hardware store costs about $20. A cheap caulk gun and a tube of self-leveling lap sealant costs another $15. The coating goes on with a paint roller directly over the existing membrane. It fills the cracks, seals the splits, and creates a waterproof barrier that buys you 3 to 5 more years. Is it a permanent repair? No. Is it the repair that a certified RV technician would recommend? Absolutely not. Does it keep water out of your ceiling all winter for the price of a pizza dinner? Yes. And that is the only question that matters when the temperature drops below freezing and you are sleeping inside. But here's the catch. Most people seal the roof and think they are done. They are not even close. The water that already entered before you sealed it is still inside the walls. Wet insulation does not insulate. It conducts cold. A wall full of wet fiberglass is worse than a wall with no insulation at all because the moisture wicks heat out of your living space all night long. Veterans address this by opening the interior wall panels wherever they can find soft spots. They pull the wet insulation out, let the cavities dry for 2 to 3 days with the windows open, and then replace the insulation with rigid foam boards cut to fit. The foam does not absorb water, it cannot rot, and it provides a higher R value per inch than the fiberglass it replaced. Total cost for a full-wall re-insulation job on a 24-foot travel trailer is about $80 in foam and a weekend of labor. Not bad for a repair that transforms a leaking shell into something that actually holds heat, right? The windows, heat vampires hiding in plain sight. Once the roof is sealed and the walls are dry, the biggest remaining heat loss comes from the windows. A standard RV has 6 to 10 windows. Every single one of them is a single-pane aluminum-framed hole in your thermal envelope. On a 10-degree night, you can stand 3 feet from a window and feel the cold radiating off the glass like an open freezer door. The factory solution was curtains, thin fabric that blocks light but does absolutely nothing for heat retention. Veterans replaced this with removable insulation panels built for about $2 per window. Rigid FOAM board, cut to friction fit inside each window frame, black fabric glued to the outside to absorb solar heat during the day. Reflective mylar on the inside to bounce body heat and radiant energy back into the living space. During the day, you pull the panels out and let the sun warm the interior. At night, you press them into the frames and trap that accumulated heat inside. A passive solar heating and insulation system for maybe $20 in total materials. Pretty clever for something that van life conversion channels charge $400 to install with custom-cut reflective kits, right? My grandmother always said, "Sunlight is free heat, but only if you know how to catch it." She was talking about her greenhouse, but the physics work exactly the same in an RV. Condensation, the silent destroyer. But here's what nobody tells you about insulating an RV for winter. The better you seal it, the faster condensation destroys everything you built. Your body releases roughly 1 pint of water vapor every night just from breathing. Cooking on a propane stove adds more. Even just existing in an enclosed, heated space creates moisture that has nowhere to go. That moisture hits the coldest surface it can find, usually a window frame or an exterior wall, and condenses into liquid water. That water runs down the wall, pools behind your insulation panels, and grows mold in places you cannot see until the smell tells you it is already too late. Veterans learned this lesson by waking up in RVs that looked like they had been through a rainstorm on the inside. Walls dripping, bedding soaked. That damp cold cuts through every layer of clothing because wet air transfers heat away from your body 25 times faster than dry air. The solution is ventilation, but strategic ventilation. You need enough air movement to carry moisture out without losing all your heat in the process. Here's what works. A small roof vent cracked open at the rear of the RV and a window cracked 1 inch at the front. Warm, moist air rises naturally, exits through the roof vent, and pulls fresh, dry air in through the lower window opening. Slow, constant circulation prevents condensation without creating drafts. Some veterans install 12-volt computer fans over the roof vent to boost airflow on particularly humid nights. The fans draw almost no power, maybe 2 watts. They run all night on a small battery and move enough air to keep the interior dry. A $20 investment that prevents hundreds of dollars in mold damage. The math is simple. Heating, the $40 system that beats a $2,000 diesel. Now here is where things get interesting. Most RV winterization guides will tell you to install a diesel heater, $2,000 for the unit plus installation. It requires a fuel line, an exhaust port drilled through the floor, a combustion air intake, and a 12-volt power source drawing 8 to 10 amps per hour. It is an excellent system. It is also completely irrelevant to someone living in a $500 RV with no income. Veterans heat their RVs using a combination that costs about $40 total and keeps them alive through Montana winters. The first component is a catalytic propane heater, not a blue flame heater, not an open flame radiant heater. A catalytic heater produces heat through a chemical reaction on a platinum-coated pad without an open flame. $20 to $30 used. It burns 1 pound of propane in roughly 6 hours. 1 pound of propane costs about $3. That is 50 cents per hour of heat. But here's the catch with any propane heat source inside an RV. Carbon monoxide. People die every single winter from running heaters in poorly ventilated spaces. You cannot smell carbon monoxide, you cannot see it, you get drowsy, you fall asleep, and you do not wake up. Veterans treat this threat with absolute seriousness. A battery-operated carbon monoxide detector costs $15 and is non-negotiable safety equipment. Ventilation stays cracked open whenever any propane appliance is burning. Most veterans run the heater for 2 hours before bed to warm the space, then shut it off completely and rely on insulation and body heat to carry through the night. The second component is a heated blanket, 12 volt, designed for truckers. It draws 40 to 50 watts. Run it for 2 hours while falling asleep, then shut it off. Your body heat and your insulation take over from there. Cost, about $15 used from a truck stop or online. The third component is thermal mass. This is the one that sounds backwards. Veterans keep 5-gallon water jugs inside their RVs. Water absorbs heat brilliantly. Sun warms the RV during the day. The water jugs absorb that warmth, then release it slowly through the night. Free heating powered by physics. Add a few dark-colored jugs near the windows where direct sunlight hits, and you have a passive thermal battery that costs nothing to operate. My grandfather used to say that a heavy house holds heat longer than a light one. He was talking about stone walls in winter. Same principle, plastic jugs instead of limestone. The sleeping setup where most people fail. Most people throw a mattress on the existing RV bed platform and call it done. Wrong. And here is why. The original RV mattress is almost always a 4-inch slab of cheap polyurethane foam. It was designed for summer weekend camping, not winter survival. After 5 years, it has compressed to roughly 2 inches, providing zero insulation. You are sleeping on a thin pad on a plywood platform that conducts cold straight up from the unheated space beneath the RV floor. Veterans strip the old mattress out and build a sleeping system in layers. First, a sheet of rigid foam on the platform. 1/2 inch is enough. This creates a thermal break between you and the cold plywood. Second, a firm foam pad or folded moving blankets, materials that maintain loft under your body weight and keep air trapped instead of compressing flat. A $20 wool blanket folded double outperforms a $200 memory foam mattress when temperatures drop below freezing because memory foam compresses under body weight and eliminates the air pockets that provide insulation. Here's where the geometry gets interesting. Veterans create what they call the bedroom within a bedroom. They hang heavy fabric, moving blankets, or even cheap shower curtains to create a smaller sleeping compartment inside the RV. Instead of heating the entire 120 square foot interior, they are heating a space roughly the size of a coffin. Your body produces 80 to 100 watts of heat constantly. In a full-size RV, that heat disperses and accomplishes almost nothing. In a sealed compartment measuring roughly 3 feet by 6 feet by 3 feet, that same body heat raises the temperature by 15 to 20 degrees. Same energy. Dramatically different result. My grandfather used to say, "Heat the man, not the room." He was talking about his wood stove strategy. The physics scale perfectly to an RV bedroom in January. The 3 a.m. rule. Here is something that separates experienced RV survivors from people who end up in emergency rooms. The coldest hours hit between 3 and 4 in the morning. Body temperature naturally drops during deep sleep, and outside temperatures reach their lowest point. Insulation that felt adequate at midnight starts failing. This is when hypothermia sneaks up on people who thought they were doing fine. You do not feel yourself getting dangerously cold. You feel sleepy, comfortable even. That comfort is the warning sign. Veterans set alarms every single night. They wake at 3 a.m., assess their condition, add a layer if needed, check their ventilation, and go back to sleep. It is a ritual that interrupts rest but prevents disaster. A man who spent 11 winters in a broken Winnebago outside Flagstaff told us he has not missed a 3 a.m. check in 8 years. Not once. Because the one night you skip it is the one night the temperature drops 20 degrees below the forecast. Keeping the machine alive. Here's what nobody tells you about living in a $500 RV in winter. The RV does not need to drive, it does not need a working transmission, it does not need brakes. But 3 systems must work, or the RV becomes a freezer that you cannot escape. The battery must hold enough charge to start the engine. A dead battery at 3 in the morning, when the propane runs out and the temperature is 15 below zero, is a survival emergency. Veterans keep a battery tender connected whenever they have access to an outlet. When they do not, they idle the engine for 15 minutes every few days to keep the battery topped off. The heater core must function. The factory heater in any RV runs off engine coolant. Start the engine, run it for 15 minutes, and the heater core pumps warm air through the cabin. This is the emergency backup when everything else fails. Veterans flush the heater core before winter. A garden hose and 30 minutes prevents the one failure that could kill you. And the propane system must be leak-free. A propane leak in an enclosed RV is an explosion waiting for a spark. Veterans test every connection with soapy water before the first cold night. Bubbles mean death. No bubbles mean you sleep. Pretty direct system for staying alive, right? The intelligence network. Now here's where the community element changes everything. RV survivors share intelligence constantly. Which Walmart locations tolerate overnight parking? Which BLM land stretches allow indefinite stays? Which church parking lots offer power hookups in exchange for nothing? Which rest areas have security that looks the other way? This information network took years to build and gets passed from experienced survivors to newcomers the same way trade knowledge used to pass from master to apprentice. A good winter parking spot is worth more than money. South-facing positions collect solar heat all day. Spots near commercial buildings benefit from heat bleeding through walls. Elevation matters because cold air pools in valleys. Wind shelter matters because a 15 miles per hour wind doubles your heat loss through the walls. A man in Albuquerque told us he has a list of 47 verified winter parking locations saved in a notebook. He has never shared it online. He shares it in person, face-to-face, with people he trusts. That list represents 11 winters of trial and error. It is the most valuable thing he owns, and it did not cost him $1 to build. A $500 RV is worthless until you understand how heat moves. Then it becomes a home that has kept thousands of people alive through conditions that should have frozen them. Humans are remarkably resourceful when survival demands it, and frankly, that is worth more than any factory warranty.